All right. We're so close to lunch, but this will be worth it. Our next speaker, I like to refer to him as my boss's boss, but also a really, really cool person. He is the executive director and one of the founders of the Secular Student Alliance. Please welcome August Brunsman.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. I like to refer to myself as Kevin's grand boss. Anyway, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm indeed the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance, thank you very much, David. I just want to say hats off to Kevin and everybody else who's organized this conference. I'm having a really good time, so yeah. So I know we're all eager to get to lunch, so I promise I will not go over my time. So, the Secular Student Alliance, what do? Guess what? Yes, you're right, students. We help students organize. We educate, unite, and serve students and student communities that advance the ideals of secularism, scientific and critical inquiry, democracy, and human-based ethics, as a matter of fact. So there are lots of students, and we now have a network of over 400 groups on high school and college campuses around the country, which was only at 310 this time last year. So things are going very, very well for us, which is a good thing, because there are lots of really important reasons that you want to have students involved in your movement. You probably already know a lot of them. So, for instance, students obviously are hungry for new ideas and new identities, so they're very eager to engage on these sort of like finding out who you are, finding out what you think about the world kinds of issues in a way that maybe is somewhat less common and less popular once people have moved beyond campus. Students having moved out of their high school communities, although we help organize high school students too, are hungry for new relationships and new people to connect with. So another motivator to really have students be involved in a social movement is that students want to get involved in social movements. Students, especially students at publicly funded universities like this, have access to space and to funding, which our cultural competitors, folks like Campus Crusade for Christ and InterVarsity, have been taking advantage of for years, and now it's time for us to start taking advantage of those things as well. Oh yeah, and students are the future. So if you want to have a voice in the council room or the newsroom or the voice room of tomorrow, you clearly need a voice in the classroom of today, or at least the after-school activity of today. It's maybe a more important distinction than I had realized before giving Catherine's talk earlier today. But students who gain secular identities now are going to go on to become, they're going to be doctors, they're going to be politicians, they're going to be corporate CEOs, and of course they're going to come on to be pop culture icons. So, all those identities that people take on when they are students and knowledge they gain in being secular activists, they carry that forward when they go out into the real world and go out and get active and make decisions that affect all of our lives. But, in case you didn't know, by the way, students are also the present, and they're also doing really, really amazing things, like all of these different conferences. For instance, and I have lots of other cool things they're doing too. Oh yeah, there's this conference, I don't know, it's a thing students are doing. Students and non-students collaborating. I should, of course, be very clear to make that distinction, and I think this is not just about all the students doing the amazing things. The places where there's the most success are certainly the places where there's the most collaboration. So very happy to see that all happening. So other stuff students are doing. Service projects. So who all participated in Light the Night last year? All right, I was really hoping for more hands, but that's okay. Bravo to those of you who did. I believe, and Kelly can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they raised the most that a first-year team has ever raised, the Foundation Beyond Belief team did. So yeah, indeed, give yourselves a round of applause. That's amazing, and there were dozens of student teams. So very happy to see that. Students do spring break service projects, and they do all kinds of other really fantastic service projects, giving sort of demonstration to the notion that one can indeed be good without God. All kinds of outreach and awareness projects. Students love doing this kind of thing. Something that's been really popular that started with our student groups. And by the way, almost all the activities that the National Secular Student Alliance, which is based in Columbus, Ohio, does to sort of like spread notions to what the campus groups, should or could be doing, are ideas that start on campus. We hear that they're successful, and then we ask the student leaders who organize them to go and spread the word, and to, well, not just spread the word, but to write up how they did it, and then we go and spread the word and let all the student activists know what's going on. So Ask an Atheist Day is going to be April 18th, 2013. It is the third year that Ask an Atheist Day has been a national event. It's pretty simple. You just throw on a sticker that says Atheist Ask Away, which will ship to student groups for free, or somehow otherwise identify yourself as an atheist and just set up a table on the quad and let people ask you questions, or maybe you wear that sticker throughout the day, because it turns out that, well, I mean, I don't know what your experience is here in Texas, but in Ohio, it turns out a lot of people don't know very much about what atheists think. So, turns out one way to change that is to have conversations with them, which is why things like Ask an Atheist Day are so important. Another outreach campaign that I just think is too funny not to mention was done by the Illini Secular Student Alliance. On Good Friday, they set up a table on the quad, they are pictured here, and they were giving away condoms, and they were talking about the effect of the Catholic Church's stance on condom use in Africa and the spread of AIDS. And they named their event, I don't know if you can read it very clearly or not, Have a Good Friday Night. So, kind of a fun take on an important social issue. So, all of those things are great. The students are the future. The students are the present. But it turns out, hey, yeah, go. It turns out they're even more important than that. Because the students are also fueling the rise of the nuns. And I guess I shouldn't just say students, young people in general don't necessarily need to be in school for this to be the case. But so we're all familiar with the nuns, like not people with habits, but people that when you ask them, what's your religious identity, they say none. Okay, those are the nuns. And you've all heard that they're rising, they've been rising a lot, especially in the last few years. What's really interesting is that, as you're probably not surprised to learn, people have been, researchers, have been asking people, Americans, what their religious identity is for a long time, and have been keeping data on this for decades. And what is fascinating is to break out how people identify by generation. So on this graph here, on the left, you've got back to the 1970s up to the aughts and today. So you can take the greatest generation, so people who were coming into adulthood around the time of World War II. Back in the 70s, 3% of them identified as non-religious. Now 5% do. Changed, but not much. The silent generation, people who came of age during the Korean War, so they started off at about 6%, and now they're up around 8%. Baby boomers, 13 to 13. Gen X, 20 to 20. And millennials, now 26. So the big payoff here is that the change, by and large, is happening between generations and not within generations. It turns out there is actually some churn. People do change religious identities after they leave college, but it's far less frequent. And they're frequently replaced by other people who go the same way. But this sort of more general trend towards at least not having a religious identity is one that is definitely being fueled by young people. It gets better still, because if you know a little bit about the nuns and people who answer none to that question, you know that people that answer none to what religion are you do not necessarily sort of share the beliefs that I think many of us in this room share. Lots of the people who identify as nuns, they call themselves things like spiritual but not religious. Many of them still identify with lots of teachings of mainstream religions and all sorts of non-evidence-based, non-naturalistic kinds of worldviews. So that's, we cannot necessarily take the rise of the nuns to mean that the world is becoming more secular, although it does seem like it is edging up a little bit. But something that is really exciting about this generation and no other generation that we know about by this generation, I mean the millennials, I mean people who are coming into their adulthood right now. So what we've got here on this graph is results from, it's a summary from a Pew study that came out last year, but the question's been getting asked for years and years and years, which is, I never doubt the existence of God. So these are the people who do sometimes doubt the existence of God. These are people that disagreed with that question. And you'll see that, so up at the top, this one is not nearly as clear as the other one, but you've got, the greatest generation, there's the color keys up at the top, there's, yellow and silence, that gray color, and the boomers are sort of that, split pea soup green, the Gen X are the darker green, and the millennials are that lighter orangey kind of color. They're still stacked by generation, although they're kind of all stacked pretty closely together there, except for the millennials. Who from 2007 to 2012 went from being right in the middle of the pack, right in that like 12% or so of people, and then hopped way up to well over 30%. So to the best of my knowledge, that is an unprecedented change of religious attitudes within a generation in the United States. So it's very exciting to see that kind of thing happening, and it's why this movement really, really needs to focus on bringing young people into it, because that's where the growth is occurring. So we're not just nuns, we're also secular Americans, and getting those students who are admitting, like, yes, I actually do sometimes doubt the existence of God, to stand up and not merely kind of exist as someone who that identity is not very important to them. Yeah, sure, okay, they don't have a religion. But getting those people to stand up and be recognized as secular Americans is something that's really, really important, and something that the Secular Student Alliance is really trying to make happen. Also, I don't know if anybody's heard, there was a study, I think it was another Pew study that came out, I think it was just a couple of months ago, I think it was right around the end of the year. They were saying that, the rise of the nuns is leveling off, because for the last several years they've grown 1% a year, and this last year they only grew 0.5%. I mean, it's one data point, so I'm not really sure that it was as newsworthy as all that. But I will definitely say that at the Secular Student Alliance, we did not notice a drop-off. So this is a graph of our growth since 2003. Red high schools, blue colleges. But yeah, I mean, from this time last year, we had 310 affiliates, and now we have 410 today. Usually, when I set up to give these talks, the numbers have changed between when I set up the talk and when they have now. But I think that the person that upstates that number is Sam, and I took him with me on this trip. So I think it's still at 410. So I need to leave you at the office next time. But no, you've been fantastic. I'm so glad you're here. Anyway, okay. So what are we doing next? Well, we're still doing it, but we're growing it a lot, which is the high school program. Something that we have found at high school level, which we almost never see at the college level, although a little bit actually, is resistant administrations, and having to fight through those resistant administrations, well, not fight through, educate, right? We are educating them as to, what the Equal Access Law says. And yes, it turns out if you have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, you do also have to have a Secular Student Alliance at your school if students want to form it. I will highlight, in relation to Catherine's talk, that these are student-led organizations, and that is something that is extremely important to us, and that empowering students to take on these leadership roles themselves is actually at the core of how the Secular Student Alliance operates. So all of those 410 affiliates, they don't report, well, they give us like data about what they're doing, right? They let us know when their contact information changes, but they don't actually have to do what we say. There's something we have called a minimum statement, which says, well, you need to be naturalistic, you need to be non-discriminatory, you need to be civil rights minded. But once those basic things are met, they're free to go off and do whatever they want. So we are all about things being student-led. Something that we launched last year was our free student memberships. Who's a student in the room? I'm just showing you what to do. Right, so you are all welcome to become free student members of the Secular Student Alliance. If you are not already, you can go to secularstudents.org/FSM, right? I know. Yeah, he's our mascot right over there for the free student memberships. I don't know why he has so much pasta, but anyway. No, it's awesome. I love your costume. You can become a free student member. You can get discounts to our conferences. You can get all kinds of, well, okay, we send you some swag. You can buy more swag. Definitely very excited to see that growing. In the last year alone, we've had over 2,000 people sign up as free student members, so very exciting to see that growing. We have regional networks. We have a regional network in the Southeast, we have a regional network in Texas, both of which are coordinated by paid people, and we have volunteer network coordinators like Kelly all over the country, sort of organizing these things regionally, and we are hiring 2 more regional campus organizers. So go to secularstudents.org and you can see the job listings there. We have annual conferences. We have 2 venues this year, one in Las Vegas and one in Columbus, and they are those dates. You can go to our website to find out more. How you can help. You can join the Secular Student Alliance, but you're not a student, that's okay. Anybody can be a member of the Secular Student Alliance. We're a 501c3 educational nonprofit. You can go to secularstudents.org/join, or you can go out to the table and see Sam or me, and we would be delighted to have you become a member. In addition to conference discounts, you also become a voting member of the Secular Student Alliance. We are democratic. We have a democratically elected board of directors. Non-student membership is $35 a year. Student membership is $10 a year. Right now, we have a $250,000 matching offer from Jeff Hawkins and Janet Strauss, so your member dues will be doubled. I don't know about you, but my stock portfolio is not doing anything like that to my money, so if you would like to get your money doubled, here is an opportunity. So really quickly, and then we can go eat. I very much feel that Catherine's talk was pretty terrifying, and even though the SSA is growing really quickly, there's obviously still a lot of unreasonableness out there. So I want to give you a little bit of a comparison here, and hopefully a little bit of reason for hope. So Campus Crusade for Christ, now Crew. Why did they take the worst word in their name and make that the new part of their name? Anyway, I don't understand. Okay, so they teach their members to follow doctrine. We teach our members to question and inquire. They teach that people are inherently sinful. We teach that people have inherent value. We teach that there's an afterlife. We teach this is our only life and we need to make the most of it. They encourage abstinence and repressed sexuality, whereas we encourage safe sex. I think that should say safer sex, actually. Positive sexuality and sex education. They believe that homosexuality is unnatural and transgender unspeakable. We explicitly support GLBTQ equality. They downplay climate change. We encourage activism regarding climate change. They support intelligent design. We encourage defending teaching of Darwinian evolution. So, probably knew all that. Campus Crusade's budget, $500 million a year. Yeah, $500 million bucks. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Our budget, you know, whatever. It's a little smaller. Well, yeah, we're growing. Anyway, they have 3 employees for every 1 group. We have 1 employee for about every 30 groups. So a little bit of a different ratio there. So, you know, we're kind of fighting above our weight a little bit. But I am pleased to report to you that from 2007 to 2011, Crew did grow. They grew 16%, from 1,491 groups to 1,742 groups. During that same time period, the Secular Student Alliance grew 116%. And so, like, the top number there, like 258, we probably, I'm not for sure, and I don't want to jinx it, because that's a thing. But it is. Don't believe me. So no, I think it's very likely that we will actually double that number by the end of this year. So thank you all very much, and go enjoy your lunch.